Hello, and welcome back. This week we're going to do our defensive suggestions. We're going to go off of a list as prescribed defenses for a seasonal snapshot as opposed to week snapshot. We're going to go over a couple different philosophies for defense tonight. Some folks like to do 1 week at a time for a defense. I know I don't ever even draft a defense. Not really a position that I'm super excited to draft for. Probably won't this year either, but some people do. So we're going to see what we got tonight with our co-hosts and what they think might work out best for this year for some folks. So we'll talk about the strengths, weaknesses, dark horses, and of course our favorite trap defenses at the end there. So without that, Ray, why don't you go ahead and start us off with someone that you like this year?
Okay. So off the ranking list that we're using, the top four that have our number one rank was Buffalo, New England, Tampa, and the Rams. Um, so that's not necessarily that they were number one overall, because I think at the end of the season, if it switched back and forth between Buffalo and New England for standard fantasy points for number
Mhm.
one. I don't remember exactly who actually finishes defense number one. But for those four ranking wise, like off of ulterior metrics outside of just straight fantasy points, it was those four. I played the Rams a lot. I felt they were fairly consistent. When you have such a dominant offense, it helps your defense play better. If your offense is constantly scoring and beating the shit out of the other team's defense,
Sure.
it's not that serious. uh, the other team's defense, then that puts pressure on the offense, and they make more mistakes, and your defense tends to fare better. Buffalo is a good example of that. If Josh Allen is on fire, that defense rips it up. And then when there's pressure on the defense because the offense is having issues, they have a bad tendency to crumble. I'm saying this as a Buffalo fan. I've seen it happen multiple times. I'm sick of seeing it, to be completely
To be
honest.
honest.
You got to be able to stand without Josh Allen holding your fucking hand and cock. Tampa, I don't think is a number one defense. I nothing I saw last season for sure. I'm like, oh, they're like the defense to beat. I didn't feel that way. They're a lot of their pressure from their defense comes from the fact that their offense is scoring often. We'll see if that holds true this year. That's gonna be a messy team this year. They've got so much volatility. I just don't see their defense. Sorry, being the number one. I think that's absurd.
I
Rams
I
makes
agree with that
sense.
quite a bit. I feel like the
Tampa.
Buccaneers are quite average.
Yeah, I can't think of a single defensive player that I'm like that's like a
The
league
to
MVP.
me to me their sexiest pickup for defense would definitely be Akeem Hicks from Chicago, which is a
Sure.
massive defensive lineman, and that's great because he basically replaces Ndamukong Suh, who's still kind of a free agent.
Hmm.
I would say Hicks is much better than Sue just on the performance. I mean, Hicks can basically stop any team he wants from running, and that's what
Yeah.
you watched in Chicago, where they just lost by people passing on them, but the run stayed intact. All right,
Hmm.
I like that that's a huge bolster to that defense. Not enough for me to say number one. Um, and that's saying because they've got Devin White out there, who's from LSU, who was the undisputed top defensive guy in his draft pick, just an electric player, way too fast for a guy that beefy. Uh, Keanu Neal signed with them this year, and Logan Ryan, who's had a couple of good seasons. Keanu Neal, up and down, he's had some really great seasons, some really poor seasons. I say all this to say that I agree with that assessment. To be number one, I'm going to have to see it first, right? I'm going to have to see something they haven't had in years, and that's consistent corner play. And that's why it's hard to trust them because how many corner? You remember when they brought in like Richard Sherman and dudes last year, and it did nothing. It made the
Yeah.
problem way worse. So
Mhm.
I don't see how they fix that.
I don't feel
I
like a lot
put
of traps for most defenses is bringing in these older veteran defensive backs or even
mhm.
linebackers, and they just get to the age to where their fame is starting to fade away from the NFL, and they're not that big superstar anymore. And like to add to that, I feel like that's kind of where the Bills are going to head with Von Miller as he's getting up in age. Just a caveat off that thought of Richard Sherman and the Bucks.
So Richard Sherman was never that good, in my opinion. Man,
Liga
semantics.
boom, Liga boom.
The Legion of Boom
Boom.
wasn't just fucking Richard Sherman. He also wasn't.
Cam
Again,
Chancellor and a country.
people would hear
Mhm.
my opinion on Richard Sherman and be like, "You're a fucking idiot." I understand. I've heard it before. He never
He's
impressed
abusive.
me. He's a loudmouth, more than anything. Fucking him out there bitching at the camera moment. That was when I was like, "All right, you're a joke. You're just the next
That was a big
Jalen
one.
Ramsey. Like, get the fuck out of here, dude. You're just running your mouth. Your talent should speak for itself. You shouldn't need to run your mouth. When you have players like Aaron Donald talk about Von Miller like he's on par with them, I don't think that you can equate him to someone like Richard Sherman, who left the league because he wasn't doing anything and only got back into the league because at one time, he had a really good season where he was on an awesome defense. Of those top four, that we were talking about, who I would put as number one just for consistency wise, would be probably New England, and that pains me to say that. But I think that they had the least volatile season for the regular season. Now, they went to Buffalo, and they got their shit kicked in the playoffs. I'm still hearing an echo. I really hope that's not coming through on the I hope that's not coming through on the recording. Anyway, it's fine.
You're good.
That's the last time I'm going to bring it up. I hope that New England does terrible. I hope their defense falls the fuck off the map, but I'm a Buffalo fan. Realistically, I don't see that happening. With the exception of that playoff game where Buffalo scored every drive, it just absolutely beat the shit out of them. They had a really good season last year for their record. It got them into the playoffs for sure. Their defense saved their ass because Mac Jones had some struggling offenses.
Yeah, just to circle back just a little bit because I agree with the assessment on the Patriots. Here was my thing, Derek, about the Von Miller thing.
Sure.
It was never a problem on the defensive line for Buffalo. It never has been. They've had such a deep rotation of D-line. That wasn't the issue. It's receivers taking big plays. It's receivers going past that secondary zone of linebacker and D-line. And Micah Poyer and Micah Hyde, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer last season had great seasons, fantastic seasons. They both are capable of shutting that down. Specifically, the coverage on the corner and slot corner was a major, major issue for Buffalo. And I don't feel Von Miller addresses that. And that's my thing. It's like the D-line is great, and it's gotten even better. Sure, awesome. But now you're saying I can get to the quarterback before the ball gets out. Because that's my bet. Because if not, I don't know what to tell you. Did they draft a corner, which you never know. Some rookies can really step up and shine and make a huge gap disappear. And I hope that's the case. And Tre'Davious White, another LSU boy. I love watching Tre'Davious White. He's a generational talent. It's a guy that really can play at any level with any receiver. It's in the time frame between Tre'Davious White rehabbing and coming back and getting a rookie caught up to snuff that I have specific issues that it would take a very good team to exploit. Even if that is, like, if what I said was 100% true, you would still have to have a very, very good offensive line to stop Buffalo from getting to you to deliver a ball. So maybe that's the bet. But my issue wasn't with Von Miller. I would rather have seen them go over like a big time, like a McCourty, or what's the guy from New England, the corner that just left that everyone loved because Jackson. It's another one that just amazing talent, right? If something like that moves, to me, Buffalo becomes almost unbeatable. If they can shut down pass, mid and long pass, I don't know a better team overall built from the past 3 years of just tough, heartbreaking losses, learned lessons, and now to me they're ready. They're ready to roll.
Elam is not a White replacement though. Like on your point,
no, he's not.
From my perspective, there is no gap. Because the other side of the field from Tre'Davious White was Levi Wallace and Taron Johnson, right? And then obviously it became Levi Wallace and Taron Johnson when Tre'Davious White got injured. So now, starting, you have Tre'Davious White, who's a terrifying corner to play against. And you have this young corner who was, one of the top defensive players in his class that is training now with arguably the best corner, without a doubt, one of the best corners in the league. And they're going to be playing on, opposite sides of the field of each other. And you have a S tier middle of the field for your defense that's going to have all kinds of pressure. I mean, granted, Tremaine Edmonds is hit or miss for me.
Yeah.
He's not perfect. Von Miller might be older, but he's more experienced and he's more focused on his role on the defense than Tremaine Edmonds is. Because Tremaine Edmonds is aggressive and he lets that get the best of him, where he focuses too hard on ball chasing and he's out of position.
Yep.
And now all of a sudden we're getting run. The ball's getting run down our throat.
And that you have screens, and then because he bites down on the running back or the quarterback, and 3-4 guys have snuck out behind him, and now it's going to be in trouble, right? So
Yeah.
I've seen it happen.
Yeah, that when we lost to Tampa, I'm not shitting on him for not being able to catch a receiver that he was too far away from. But if he had been in, mostly that was not on him. That was a positioning issue that was on the defensive coaching. He should have never been in a position where he would have had to chase that dude down. But if he had been in better field position, that ball never would have made it to that receiver. So
right.
I don't know.
A little bit A, a little bit B. But I just wanted to add that part because that was my whole thing. I would absolutely play Buffalo's defense as is for a while, unless something major happened. To me, I find it up there with New England as far as consistency. So if we go back over the list, I'm not picking the Bucs first. I'm not doing it. The Rams, I don't think realized how much of a help Von Miller was. And if they do, I don't think you can replace a player. We've talked about this with Devontae Adams and them. You can't just replace a guy because he's as big and as fast. And you say, well, he's a replacement. It's not how football works. We've seen it too many times.
Right.
But the Patriots just, again, another strong offseason. Not many losses, not many acquisitions either, but not many losses. I keep the Bills and the Patriots 1-2, 2-1. To me, it's a toss-up. As far as consistency, I think the Bills have a big play possibility.
Yeah, Buffalo pulls ahead if their moves work out the way that they want them to.
Yeah.
New England didn't make moves to counter that, so Buffalo's defense is going to be, if everything works out the way they want it to, they're going to be, a very scary defense.
For sure. Derek, who you got on this list?
Well, I was going to add, so being a Bills fan, Ray, like besides skill alone, Von Miller had 9.5 sacks last year, split between two teams. But the thing with Von Miller, he's such a large personality as an addition to any team. Coming with his Super Bowl win with the Broncos, he was a key player, key personality on that team. And then mid-season to be added to the Rams. Do you think that kind of attitude is going to help the Bills even?
That's up to Von Miller because Buffalo is huge right now. Their layout, like their environment on that team, is a familial environment. They're very big on that. Any player that is going to stick out is going to absolutely hurt the team. So if he shows up with like a Jalen Ramsey complex, where it's all about him, that's going to hurt Buffalo. Doesn't matter how talented of an athlete you are. But if Von Miller goes there, and he talked about wanting to go and play for Buffalo because of the environment of the team. I think that it can only be beneficial. I think I'm assuming that they brought him in because of experience and because of how he is as a teammate, and that he just maintains he clearly can work well with others, considering he switched in the middle of a season. I think the biggest obstacle for Von Miller aiding Buffalo is not going to be him. It's going to be his teammates. Like I could definitely see, and I hope I'm wrong about this, but I could see him butting heads with Tremaine Edmonds. It's all about whether or not Edmonds is going to be able to learn from him, because Aaron Donald is arguably Von Miller's superior. So it's a little bit different for Von Miller to come and be like, "Hey, I'm your second. I'm your wingman. I'm your right hand guy to Aaron Donald." He's not going to do that with Tremaine Edmonds. That would be silly. He's a far better. He's just better than Tremaine Edmonds is. He's more experienced, and I don't care that he's 33. I doubted Von Miller going to the Rams. I was like, he's not going to make a difference on that team. And that was because he was getting the shit kicked out of him in Denver. He didn't have good teammates to back him up. He definitely does now in Buffalo. He definitely did for the Rams. And he proved me wrong, so I'm hoping he proves somebody that doubts him going to Buffalo wrong.
If you believe in mentorship and you believe in other players developing other players, which I definitely do, the effect Miller could have on someone like Rousseau, who's crazy young and athletic, is something that I'd be super excited to see. You could not have had a better mentor. Here's Von Miller, 2-time Super Bowl champion, has been top of the league, has been defensive MVP, has had excellent accolades coming into. Is Starch still with Buffalo? Is he still there? Or is he out?
I think that's something here. I'm going to say no, but
I can't recall.
To be honest, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so now you have Milano, and you have excellent senior linebackers behind that defensive line in Buffalo that have just seen a lot of football. But the by far defensive end, edge rusher, outside linebacker, whatever you want to call them, has been a focal point in pro football for at least the last 5 years, and it's been a major push. T.J. Watt, Von Miller, guys of that breed, Kiki Mingo. Even going up to Daniil Hunter up in Minnesota, who's going to be back, right? There are guys that elite athleticism and speed on the outside has been the new focus. If he can sharpen Rousseau and just add that, here's that elite one step, here's your move, here's your thing that makes you a dominant edge rusher, I trust Von Miller above pretty much any player on the outside to teach a guy that.
For sure,
you know?
Absolutely.
So I'm excited to see he has on the outcome of that. But other than the Bills defense that we'll go on and on about, who's another defense that you like, Derek? If you let's say Ray takes Buffalo off the board or off the agency, what's another team you'd grab?
Well, I'm going to start by saying that defenses aren't really one thing that I keep up with, especially being in the sports card industry. I got to focus on the offense. So
sure.
Defense, honestly, I'd be taking a lot of advice from peers like you guys. One thing I thought about is, the Rams are ranked number 2. I think the only thing that really would worry anything about the defense losing momentum was if they lost Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald's just a monster. A key piece of that defense. There's no running on Aaron Donald. I'm not, the best defensive guy. My question for them comes into Bobby Wagner being the right replacement for Von Miller. Just looking over stats, in comparison, Von Miller had 9.5 sacks last year between the Rams and the Broncos. Bobby Wagner had 1. So, I mean, that could come down to was Bobby Wagner put down into blitzing, or is they just getting fucking ran over the whole time? I would probably be strong in taking the Rams just off being comfortable with history. But then again, at the end of the season, last year you saw the Cowboys really come alive in their defense, putting up.
And at the beginning of the season, you would not play them, right?
No, not at all. Towards the end, putting up 25, 26 points by themselves. I think the Patriots were doing that too. So honestly, my top 3 would be Rams, Patriots, and possibly the Cowboys. But I'd probably be more comfortable taking the Patriots. Just having that same unit last year with small additions, it just means the Patriots are really focusing on taking the team they have now and building upon it and developing each player. So if they ended the season off pretty good last year from a defensive standpoint, besides the playoffs. So honestly,
that's one way to say that.
Yeah, they're just going to get better from there, especially if they're keeping the same team and they've been putting in that hard work in the offseason.
The only caveat I have to that, and I still agree with your assessment, but here's a big one. J.C. Jackson now is with the Chargers, which was by far their best corner. No doubt their best pass defender, probably the top 3 pass defender in the league. Now, it's not just for New England. It's overall football, right? I mean, 2 seasons ago, he had 8 or 9 interceptions in a season, something crazy, right? I'm not thrilled, but at the same time, this is what the Patriots do. They find that next guy that's going to answer the call, right? So J.C. Jackson came out of nowhere, and just Belichick was like, no, put him in. I'm positive. And it worked out. Who's to say he just can't, find another guy like that? I know we talk about player replacement a lot, where it's not that simple for a lot of players, especially. But one that drives me nuts is the A.J. Brown thing. You don't find A.J. Brown every draft. I don't know why they keep making that comparison. To me,
Yeah.
Jackson's kind of the same thing. You're not going to find a J.C. Jackson no matter if you scour the country for the top corners. It still takes an elite athleticism and an elite competitiveness to just understand that I'm one-on-one with whatever NFL receiver who's doing great. Stephon Diggs, in fact, he picked it off from Stephon Diggs' hands, right, last year. It wasn't a great decision to throw. It was a 50-50 ball, and it just happened to go his way that time, right? But if a guy can win 50-50 on Stephon Diggs, Adam Thielen, players like that, you're not going to find that. And so I'm a little worried about that, but I understand that's how the Patriots are.
Now, with the Chargers getting Jackson, it seems like their defense was the biggest hole that the Chargers had last year. Do you think the addition to Jackson and Khalil Mack puts them as, even a Super Bowl contender?
Here's what I'll say. I don't equate Khalil Mack acquisition like I would Von Miller acquisition. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Khalil Mack has been in the league a number of years now, and I'm not terrified of the player. But I definitely know Von Miller. Now, Khalil Mack had an excellent college career. He's done great. I'm not saying he's not good. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, does he change the dynamic of that team? No. And here's why. If J.C. Jackson understands that he's going to be thrown at probably 30% more because he's the only dude out there who's going to be capable of guarding the top receiver on the other end of the ball, which means all I got to do is find him every play. Eventually, he will wear down. You can't run 100% of plays on defense when you're gunning. So that's what I think team strategy will be. It'll be running, and it'll be like, all right, man, I'm just going to run flies. And the minute you give up on one, you're giving up a touchdown. I don't trust the safeties. I don't trust the linebackers. I know you have a Bosa there, and Nick Bosa is fantastic. And when he's healthy, he's very scary. I would like to see Khalil Mack play, complementary football to Bosa the way Miller played with Donald. If that happens, yes. If the chemistry can improve and the cornerback position can stop the bleeding, this is why, this has been the bane of Justin Herbert the whole time he's been in the league, is he's in shootouts every weekend. And he's in shootouts because I'm just throwing it over the top. Who cares? There's no one back there, man. No one back there. So if I have 10 plays and the 7 out of 10 plays Bosa doesn't get to my quarterback, I have a pretty good chance of doing some damage. And that's how I viewed the Chargers all season. To me, now I say that they had a lot of young talent come in. I don't know the scale or the grade of that young talent. Maybe I could be wrong totally. I think that the acquisition wasn't the need, right? I like J.C. Jackson, and sure, but you didn't address any of the linebackers that had terrible seasons at linebacker. And so, great, that one corner's got him. I'll just throw in the middle. Done.
And it looks like they re-signed Kyle Van Noy.
Yeah, and Van Noy is another veteran linebacker who's played a lot of football. He's with the Patriots, he's with the Dolphins, and now he's there, right? I hesitate because I also don't trust their coaching. That's the thing with the Chargers for me. I haven't trusted the coaching the whole time. Justin Herbert's been good. I don't care who his coach is. He's going to do well. And that offense is going to do well. So I would like to see not just a new head coach, but certainly a new defensive coordinator for them.
Yeah.
Right. So coaching is a big thing. I don't want to step –
you're right.
Real quick before you go on, Brock. They didn't, make a lot of defensive moves.
No.
They did. Objectively,
I'm sorry.
Did.
Excuse me. I'm sorry. I was looking at the Raiders thing. I was like, what? No, excuse me. Go ahead.
The Chargers definitely made a lot of moves. Now, I don't know that they weren't huge moves. I think Buffalo heavily spent defensively, and they certainly, put in a couple dollars on their O-line. I don't know that.
Yeah.
I don't know that the Chargers really did the same thing. They definitely made moves.
They picked up 9 defensive players.
If they were lateral moves, though, it's not going to make a fucking difference. And Justin Herbert is still going to be in shootouts every fucking weekend. Some of the teams that they were losing to, it was insane to me. It's like I know that your quarterback is scoring 30 points because I'm watching him kick my ass on my fantasy app. So where the fuck are these L's coming from? And it's the defense. So they've got a long ways to go. I don't know if 9 moves is even enough. We'll see.
I like J.C. Jackson. I like Callahan. Go ahead, Derek. I was just going to say that.
I was going to say my second question, and I mean, this could apply to fantasy very well. Best Los Angeles acquisition, Khalil Mack or Bobby Wagner? Which LA team picked up the better addition to their defense?
Who did Bobby go to?
The Rams.
Bobby brings a level of playing that linebackers do not carry forward for the time he has. Bobby Wagner's main and excellent thing is understanding where the big play is going to be. Now, that doesn't always translate into a bunch of sacks, but it does punch out a lot of balls out of running backs not looking for him. And it does absolutely wipe the deck with receivers on crossing routes, which I've seen him do for years. I like the way he plays. He's older than Mack. I like Wagner more just because I've seen more pop out from that player. I think Mack is probably the better on paper acquisition. And if you want to talk about practicality or whatever the fuck, if you look at it straight logically, probably Mack. But I like Wagner. I like Wagner a lot. It's just you can't
that situation that Wagner's in.
I do
for sure more than I like Khalil in the Chargers.
I'm gonna go Wagner.
I mean, Wagner came from the Seahawks. Was historically usually has a strong defense. So he's got more of a title to hold up, being that solid defensive player. Khalil Mack comes from the Bears, a team that just gets shit on every game. So, I mean, he may have more room to grow with the Chargers than he ever did with the Bears.
Yeah. Having to fight the whole game from the rear is going to help Khalil a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I certainly put the Chargers in dark horse territory. I'll do that. But that's probably as high as I'd rank them.
Yeah.
So with that, so the next three to me are very close to each other, except for one. The Colts, Saints, and Steelers are the next grouping of defenses. The Steelers, to me, shored up a lot, and I don't see a huge glaring problem with their defense. Their cornerbacking has been very B- C plus-ish for a couple of years now, with Joe Hayden kind of holding it down. Joe Hayden's fine; he's doing fine. It's the safeties. It's always the safeties who don't. Or always out of position, but you cannot ignore a team with TJ Watt on it. You just can't, man. It's just so dominant.
Here's the thing: Pittsburgh's defense wins games only when teams are playing bad football. They can take advantage of bad football when, like, a team like Jacksonville wouldn't fucking matter what you're doing. They're gonna fuck up. It has to be real bad football for Jacksonville to look good. I wouldn't know anything about that, but.
And on that note, that's why I put them at the bottom of that grouping. So you can't just tell me TJ Watt's going to make that whole defense run. You just can't, right? No one can, right?
No. Even if JJ goes there, it's still going to be rough.
Yeah, even if he goes there.
And they play from behind. They're going to play from behind. Yep. If they play from behind with Ben, I have no fucking faith in Trubisky. I don't care for him at all.
Pittsburgh is still more mobile than Big Ben.
Pittsburgh is still going to struggle. They're still going to be playing from behind in that where defense is down.
Watch Trubisky turn that whole team around.
That's
Shut
right.
the fuck up. Yeah, they said the same thing about Mason Rudolph too.
I hope they drop Mason Rudolph.
Oh my God! Oh, dude, that's a whole thing. All right,
one of my favorite football memories was Mason Rudolph getting domed with that.
Oh,
with the helmet by Myles Garrett.
That was phenomenal.
That'll never be erased from NFL history. Never.
No.
He definitely did not get hit hard enough.
So that's why I put the Steelers at the bottom of that three grouping. My most liked team.
Oh, hold on. I don't want you to move on because there's a big thing. Levi Wallace is in Pittsburgh.
Not only that, who else is from Jacksonville in Pittsburgh? Big time linebacker acquisition.
Yeah. Miles Jack.
Big repertoire, elite linebacker, man. If Devin Bush gets his shit together and plays like he's supposed to, you put him and Miles Jack and TJ Watt, that middle of that field is pretty ironclad, man. Josh Allen certainly knows Miles Jack, certainly. Especially last year in that game when him and the other Josh Allen just ran ran house on that offensive line, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love that acquisition. They lost a big one in Stephon Tuitt retiring. He was just a great beefy body in the middle of that line that just, hey, man, you kind of have to go around him, which opened the door for TJ and Cameron Hayward and all those guys doing their thing. So I'm interested to see how they replace that if they can, which is why I'm a little lower on him because I need to see that line produce. But I am going to take a moment now to talk about my Colts.
All right. We'll allow it.
Yeah, I know, right? All right,
Yeah,
so
boo.
the Colts actually, from a fantasy point of view, the past 3 seasons have actually been excellent. If you talk about overall potential for a defense as far as like fantasy points, led in interceptions and sacks a couple years ago, very, very turnover, not dependent. That's not the wrong word, but the maybe a turnover enthusiastic team. I'm not quite sure how I would say that. Here's the couple of things that I love about Indy this year. Last year, you had Darius Leonard and you had DeForest Buckner leading the charge and did great. As far as defensive goes, with not an enormous amount of draft talent on a field, did great. Some weeks, fantastic. It's really hard to be an excellent defense when Carson Wentz puts you out there that much. So I'm not thrilled about that. But Stephon Gilmore goes over to Indy this year, and I think that's a massive pick. It's never been the D-line. It's never been the linebackers. It's always been safeties and corners for them. Always has been. So they pick up 2 corners, a linebacker, and a safety, and then a couple of Njoku goes from the Raiders. Njoku from the Raiders comes over. They give up a corner to get Njoku from the Raiders. They give up Rock Ya-Sin, who's been a corner for us for several years now. I like the amount of motion for defense. I'm not thrilled about Matt Ryan. I never will be. You can never make me happy about Matt Ryan.
The same problem that you had with Wentz.
You're going to have to.
Someone agrees with me. I think Carson Wentz is a million times better fucking player than Matt Ryan will ever be.
So I'm not thrilled about that. But I like that they took big money and said, all right, please go win football games. That's what they did with defense this year. And I like that they took some shots. And we'll see, because Stephon Gilmore had a very meh season last year. But I would argue that anytime you get moved over to a team and you don't have an off season and you don't have communication because everyone's kind of playing fuck games on the New England side and the Carolina side, I don't think any player can flourish in that. So I think Gilmore will be fine. Any takers on my Colts? Yeah, come on.
Well, if the defense hold up, their problem is putting points on the board with the offense.
Yeah,
and we're not on offenses today, so I'll save my hatred for Matt Ryan for another day. So when the season starts, I'm going to shit talk every week. We're going to have a segment of just me shit talking Matt Ryan. Please.
It'll be necessary because every week he's going to do something. Just some of those games we're getting off topic. I can easily get into shitting on Matt Ryan.
We all could, right?
So the Colts defense has never appealed to me at all. I've never watched him and been like, yeah, this is a real tough defense. Buffalo didn't lose to Indy because of their defense. Buffalo lost to Indy because of Buffalo's defense.
Well,
had nothing to do with Indy's defense.
It had to do with Jonathan Taylor doing whatever.
It had nothing to do. Yeah. Josh Allen still scored me. He still crushed it that week. I still got plenty of points. It was still like a 30-plus point game, I think, for Buffalo. It just turned into a shoot versus sprint out because Jonathan Taylor was just running the ball however he wanted.
I think the Bills
had nothing to do with
Indy's like -8.
I had 2 bad weeks with the Bills defense. And one was against Tampa, which if we get into scoring for defense later, that's a game where I would be like, Buffalo's defense does not deserve to be, shit on that badly. Because they played really well later, throughout as the game went on. I think Buffalo is a really good offense when they're not having fucking O-line issues. Is a really good metric for a defense because they're so strong. On paper, especially, they're a very strong offense. There's other teams that you could do this with, but if the only reason that defense isn't, absolutely getting mogged on is because their offense is able to just outscore the team they're playing, that's not really a good defense. If you're only winning because of a shootout, you're a shitty defense. And that's what the Chargers have, is a defense that only wins games, only plays just good enough. You think the Bills' defense? I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you. I've complained about our defense for 3 years.
Yeah.
I'm just referring to the Bills and Kansas City game. That's all.
Same. I was
Shoot
just about to say,
out
well. No, I don't disagree. And again, it's not a crazy sexy pick, but you're talking about a team which its worst weekend was 21, which is definitely low, but it's definitely finished number 1 many times. I see it. I do. I just want to know what the goal is this year. What were you changing from last year to combat the problems that just mogged down the team into just a very, we lost Jacksonville at the end of the season and that's it. Our season's done. I would argue that if you had to come down to between a game of Jacksonville and that you were dog shit to begin with. But let's not go down that hole. The Saints, to me, are probably the biggest anomaly in the top 10. And I see them up there every year. Growing up in Louisiana, of course, I know the Saints, right? And now you got a new head coach who's a defensive coordinator by heart, Dennis Allen. And Dennis Allen has actually made miracles out of that Saints defense that doesn't put a ton of money into it, man. They just don't. It's all in like Drew Brees or Alvin Kamara when that was, and that's just how it was. Mike Thomas, Jimmy Graham, players like that. You do have Cam Jordan, and you do have some excellent linebackers that have been there for a long time. You still have dog shit corners. Marshawn Lattimore is probably a top 5 corner. That's great. I'm just not going to throw to him then because there's plenty of other meat on the bone. So I always hesitate in looking at a Saints defense saying this is going to be a deal that I ride with, but I've certainly seen them do well, right? So with that introduction, right, after we've gone through the top 7 or so, you guys look at this list. Who's the team that you see saying, I think they have a chance of really doing a great season, really turning it around, or just absolutely demolishing their competition coming up this year? So basically, your dark horse, if you will.
I'm going to advocate for my Packers.
Yeah, I saw that coming.
No.
I mean, they're, like you said, they're or like you said about the Saints, they're just another team that doesn't really, cash out in terms of defense. They play with, they play a full year with fucking mediocre dudes straight off the practice squad, and they win fucking football games. It's crazy. I'm looking at their list for their starters. Man, Jair Alexander, which is
excellent corner,
a monster corner.
Excellent.
I'd say top 5
at least.
It's just a list of no names, and the Packers are going to do what they do every year. They're going to play with mediocre players, and they're going to win 11, 12 games. If they can get their shit together in the playoffs, maybe we'll win another Super Bowl. But I feel like they'd be a good dark horse because there wasn't a lot of games last year that they just allowed
totally
a shit ton of points. They're solid year round until it comes to playoffs.
No, they had a lot of issues last season.
Let
me just say this: I would start Green Bay. I would. There are a lot of games for most of the season where I would put Green Bay in, and I would not be worried. I would not be stressed about playing their defense. It's another defense that is not very sexy. Like, there's nobody on there that I'm like, oh yeah, these dudes are just going to be crushing it game after game. And they just really aren't there for their defense. But they do perform, which is fine, because this position is really lackluster with the way it's scored in fantasy. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't even say they're a dark horse. I think that they're one of the top 5 teams that I could put in and not be worried about them going negative.
I say dark horse because they're so average that no one really wants to start them.
I'd say dark horse because they're out of the top 15.
Dark horse, if you're talking about they're going to dominate and get you like a 25-point game. I'm saying they're consistent enough that I could start them every week and not have to worry about them fucking up my game.
Well, I mean, picking defense is kind of hard. There's only 32 teams. It's not like where we got receivers where we can go through 100 dudes. Because when you get down to the last fucking 8 teams in the tier 5 right here, it's all dog shit teams, and even if none of them are dark horses, what do you got to pick? So it's almost like you got to pick,
you have to
the mid tier guys and expect one of them to rise as a superstar next year.
They're not going to be a superstar.
I've got
Go
one.
for it.
it.
I don't have
Yeah.
one, so you might as well go.
I'm going with Miami.
No.
I'm absolutely going with Miami. No,
Good
no.
reasoning. Let's hear it.
All right. So one again, and actually, I talked to Ray before the show about this guy, and I cannot shut up about him because I've watched him just be so electric. Their rookie last year from Oregon, Holland, is one of the top selling jerseys this year, and the reason is because he had an immediate and instant impact at his safety position. 4 or 5 sacks, couple picks, excellent tackler, excellent rangy safety. That's one of my favorite things in the world. It reminded me like when I was watching Tyrann Mathieu as an LSU Tiger. He was everywhere. All right. You never saw him not in a play. I'm super glad he's in New Orleans too. To have that off the rip with Xavier Howard, which is an excellent corner, another top 5, probably top 8, maybe up in there, something like that. Agba gets re-signed, which was the thing about Miami, and this is what I was getting at. The names don't pop off to you because we don't watch them enough. And we don't watch them enough because they're such an average team that you don't expect anything from them. But now you have expectations this year. They've put a ton of money into that offense and a ton of money into that, specifically offensive line. That running back room is full. And again, I know we're not on offenses, but the reason I bring them up is because now everyone is watching. And if you have defenders who are not performing, nope. We'll pull the Packer treatment. Give me that guy. I don't know. Come on in. Johnson, sure. Come on in. Right? You're going to see a movement on the defense. You've got Duke Riley, just out of another LSU guy, excellent middle linebacker. Xavier Howard, Landon Roberts, Melvin Ingram. Ingram's a fantastic linebacker, kind of edge rusher. You look at, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 defensive acquisitions and re-signings. Another solid unit that has now another season and off season to play together. New head coach who's an offensive head coach. I don't know much about their deco or how they want to go about defensively. So it is, to me, the definition of a wild card because you just don't know. Whole new regime, but still with excellent talent. And I expect to see amazing things from Holland and Howard and these pass rushers that are going to – they play like a chaotic blitzkrieg kind of defense with a little bit of zone. Sometimes it really fucks up. Sometimes there's wide open receivers, but sometimes it's the perfect play, big time sack, turnover, fumble, pick. It's too exciting. I love it. It's exciting defense, and you just don't see a ton of that, like you were saying, when you look at Packers, not sexy. Saints, not sexy. Miami, to me, super sexy. It also could bite you in the ass big time. Sure.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Christian Wilkins plays for Miami, so I'm on board with that. I love Christian Wilkins. He's one of my favorite. He's one of the funniest players that I've ever seen on Mic'd Up. He's great. So I'll root for that defense. Yeah, he's the best. Now, as long as he just doesn't do well against Buffalo, I'm fine with them kicking ass all season.
So I agree with that pick. You know, looking at the whole defense as a whole and not trying to point out individual players.
Yeah.
Last year, Miami's defense was very solid. Not, you know, they lost a lot of ball games by like 1 and 2 scores. And I mean,
rest in peace, Detroit, because me and Ray watched it every week.
Like I said, I don't keep up with, you know, player moves and stuff when it comes to defenses, but as long as they've made some good acquisitions over the offseason and they come in that same tempo they had last year, I completely agree. I think that with all eyes on them, hopefully they'll perform.
But to add to that too, what they brought, it's not just talent, they brought stability. New head coach, better contracts, stability. And that's what makes players do great things when they know they're safe, when they know they have that money and they know they have that backup and they know that the next guy behind them is not dog shit, right? That stability to me, this is a year that Miami could jump into elite range to me. That's why I picked them as a dark horse. To add, since Raymond didn't have a dark horse pick, I have a dark horse / trap.
Let's hear it.
So we'll rotate
outside of the top 4 or trap picks.
But that's true too. But this one I think is I think Derek will be on board.
Are you going to pick the Lions?
Nope, I'm going to go Eagles.
You're an idiot if you start the Eagles defense.
I said trap / dark horse. All right, so you can't be mean about it anymore. No,
they added one of the best defensive players to come out of Georgia in a long time.
Who gives a fuck?
To me, Dean is the way better one. I love Dean. I don't care that he's undersized. I don't give a fuck. He's going to do excellent things. But I'm not going to stop there. Derek, go ahead and chat up Ray and see how he likes the Philly Eagles. And I'm going to bring up the list of other acquisitions.
Yeah, pull up that list for me.
Yeah, I got you.
Pull it up too.
My dark horse, if I picked one, would be Jacksonville, just because of some of the moves that they've had. But even
that's a shot in the fucking dark.
Oh,
yeah, but they're okay. Here's why: Josh Allen is arguably like one of the best rookie defenders in the league. I wish he was on a better team. I hate that he plays for that shithole of Jacksonville. I feel that way about a lot of Jacksonville players. They don't deserve to be treated that way. Yeah. I would love to have him in Buffalo. I don't know. His rookie contract's got 2 more years. We'll see.
So to add to that, Derek, you ready? I got James Bradbury, top 10 corner, hands down from the Giants. Derek Barnett, Fletcher Cox is back. Hassan Reddick had an amazing season last year. That's why he's getting paid huge bucks. 2 new safeties. So that was the weakest part, were the safeties. But their corner room is stacked. Jalen Mills is one of those guys in there. That corner room is young, fresh, tall guys that can play rangy football. I just can't wait. If Nakobe Dean can do what I think he does, one, that's a Pro Bowler. I love how fierce a linebacker and how young and rangy and fast. He's everything I want to see in a defense that had a terrible season, right? And that is fresh blood. A couple first rounders. To me, Dean should have been the first one, but they're both first rounders. I don't know that I would even. I know Dean went in the second. I don't care. He's a first rounder. The safeties in particular were the biggest problems. They addressed it. They got a whole new draft pick order. Fletcher Cox is going to be Fletcher Cox, man. That's a beast of a human being in there. And Barnett, too. Barnett is his right-hand man, the same like the other couple of groups of guys that we talked about. I love the moves. Now put it together. Let me see it. Do some exciting football. Take a page out of Miami's book. Come on, do it.
Now, what about Jordan Davis? How do you think he plays in on that new Eagles defense?
I don't mind it. I think he matches the personality of that team. I just don't know. To me, this is a year that defensive coordinator can evolve. He had certain players and he had to play within a certain boundary because he didn't have second strings. He did not have depth. He had to play dudes the whole fucking game. And Jalen Hurts had them out there the whole fucking game, right? So over time, you were going to beat the Eagles defense every game. It didn't matter. If you could stay on the field offensively, you were going to beat them because they just didn't have it. You now have basically a whole new defensive philosophy roster waiting for you to say, I'm going to play blitzkrieg. I'm going to play man on man, and I'm going to send the house every other play with speed and ferocity. I like that, especially, here's the other thing. They play in a dog shit division. They just have to go on the field and not suck. When you have the Cowboys, the Commanders, and the Giants in your division, come on, man. Like, there's no need that this should not even be a competition this year at all. It should be the Eagles hands down with 10 to 12 wins, right? Jalen Hurts has got to put it together too. I'm not talking about offense today, but that's a whole part of it, right? And I like Jalen Hurts' fit. Davis is great. Dean is great. What was the big defensive tackle? Was that Davis that you were talking about?
Yeah, Jordan Davis.
Yeah.
Big, fast dude to be as big as he is, to run faster. I think he's got faster 40s than like Mahomes and there's a few other quarterbacks.
Big man like that should not be that fast. No. But this is also why I call it a trap / dark horse, because with that youth and with that new stuff going on, man, it can backfire in a hurry. And you're going to find out if James Bradbury is elite or is he going to be another one of what's the Bengals guy that gave up the touchdown? Eli Apple. Is he going to be an Eli Apple? Or is he going to be his own thing? Because this is his year to prove it.
Piece of shit. I agree that they're a trap because I think I'm pretty sure you've said it on the show. Everybody thinks they're hot shit in OTAs. Everybody's always stuck in their own cock. OTAs. I have no reason to believe that Philly's organizational issues have been solved. I have no reason to believe that those issues that have fucked the team in the ass the last decade that I've watched football is any different. So put all the shiny stars in your fucking on your chest that you want. Your shirt still has holes in it and you still smell like shit. So you're not gonna be very successful. That's just my take, though.
I'm just talking defense. I think if you take offense and defense, yes, you're absolutely correct. Because they can never sort out who the fucking running back's going to be. That drives me bananas. But I'm not going to get into that today. That's why I put him in both categories. Because to me, I've seen a lot of youth where, yeah, man, he's never seen that fucking receiver cut that way before. That's a touchdown. Yeah, he's never seen it. He's never seen that speed. He's never seen that angle. He's never seen a dude just like punch him in the fucking face and take the ball away, right? This is what the NFL will do. And tight ends that are like, there are tight ends that are a foot taller than them, man. Like, I mean, there's a whole repertoire of things they have not experienced yet. And that's why it's super trappy, because you will make mistakes. The question is, do you make mistakes early, mid, or late? Mid and late, you're not going anywhere. Early, it's okay. It'll buff. It'll fix itself out. But it has to start early for those mistakes to be corrected. So that's why I put them in both. So I gave up my trap pick, right? So who do you guys have now that you see a defense always on rosters, but is very trappy to you?
I feel like it's hard to pick a trap for defense with such a limited number of picks, because you got your dog shit teams,
yeah,
and then you see the Bengals were ranked 26th.
Yeah,
Super Bowl team with a shit defense. I mean, that'd be a whole reason to take it as a trap, anyways. Unless, I don't know, it's a shot in the dark for me. I feel like picking a trap for defense.
Do you remember last year? And this is one of the guys I thought you would talk about. Do you remember how Carolina had like 3 weeks of excellent defense and then were shit the rest of the year? They were crazy hot, crazy streaky. And somehow, I don't know why. I think I even played. Actually, I played the Panthers twice, and both times were positive of double digits for the points. But I also seen them do double digits on the negative sides. I know what you're saying, but I can see a couple that I definitely would classify as traps. Raiders, 100%. They're always on someone's roster. Chiefs had like 2 years ago. The Chiefs were the best defense around for fantasy. Not last year. Not fucking last year at all, right? Come on, you got someone that you see a lot on teams, but just does not perform.
For defense?
Yeah. And no, you can't say all of them.
I can say all of them. For fantasy, anyway. And if we're talking about actual football, that's a different story. I think when I say like defenses outside the top four are kind of worthless, I do mean fantasy. Maybe I'll clarify that. I think that defenses are treated unfairly by fantasy, the same way the tight end position is, where it's like you could have a team that absolutely dominates an offense, just does not let them score.
Yeah.
Any team that keeps Dak Prescott under 20 points is doing really well. The dude fucking has a cannon. He passes every fucking play. Like his arm and accuracy are so high that if you're outside of him just playing straight retard football, which he does have a tendency to do, but when he's not doing that, if you're still preventing him from succeeding, you're playing really well defensively. So I think the teams get a shit on him because it's like, oh, they got yardage. Who gives a fuck? The score is what matters. If you get 400 yards in a game as a passing QB and you didn't score, you fucking took a fat L in that game. I don't give a shit about your yardage. You didn't score, which is where it matters. And the end of that goes to like once you get close to the end zone, they just crowd the end zone. That's what happens to Josh Allen. When we get too close to the end zone, they just fill it with defenders so that he can't pass. He has to try and rush, and then people attack him and grab a stick and shit. But I don't know. I generally don't have anything to say about it because for fantasy, I just don't care for this position. I'm one of those dudes. I'll draft defense if like one of those top four is open, just so that I can have them early on and get a head start. But
it's gonna be the last pick, isn't it?
Yeah, one of my last three. Maybe if I might get a kicker and then I might get the defense. We'll see. You gave me shit for drafting. I think I drafted a kicker and you gave me shit for it. And then my follow-up defense or my follow-up pick was the defense, and you gave me shit for that too, which is fair. But I draft off of like standard leagues where everyone is not retarded. I should have known with our league that is
I didn't fuck
fucking
with the rules.
mongoloids. Not the rules. The people in the league
grading.
are retarded.
Oh yeah, yes.
That was my first season playing fantasy, and
Yeah.
who's your champ, baby?
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
can actually thank everybody that fucking we're kind of just going into our league news real quick, but you can thank everybody that waffled against Dylan so that he could go 10 games undefeated and push me out of the playoffs.
That's right.
That's fine. I kicked everybody's ass that season until that game, so whatever.
You
And
got 1 point in one game because Mahomes got fucking rocked.
yeah, but you had Derrick Henry and he was playing, so suck my dick.
Yeah, that's true. And you had Cooper Kupp, so I mean,
Yeah.
come on now. Okay, all right. Well, I
just don't have
mean,
much to say on it. I
I
just really
think-
don't.
Yeah, and I think largely we've covered the defenses you're going to see on rosters. You're going to see some guys who swear the Jets are good every year, always are. You're going to see some guys that say that the Texans are going to put it together. Bullshit. I would love someone to tell me they would confidently take the Falcons defense. You're a fucking liar. You're a fucking liar. I don't know why. Yeah. Don't lie to me. Like, you can say I'm dumb. Sure. Don't lie to me. Right.
None of those teams get picked up. None of them. We fight in the waiver wire to get.
Yes.
Brian had to drop a big defense so that
That's
he could pick up a
right.
wide receiver he really liked, and we'll fight in the waiver wire for it before we ever go and pick up a team like Jacksonville's defense. It's not. You might as well not even have them because literally they could just hurt you because then you could go -10.
Yep.
That's what's crazy about this position in fantasy is sometimes you genuinely are better just not starting a but some leagues penalize you if you have an empty slot. I think ours does as well. So that's definitely something. My brother's league does not. So if you're like, I don't have any good defense this week, nobody's starting, that's a legitimate strategy.
Come
but I think
on.
in our league, my brother just fuckhead shit with his league. So
Okay.
I'm not recommending it. Bro, we've seen his running back rules. But
oh my gosh,
I
Derrick
think in
Henry
our
put up like
league,
90 points one day.
yeah, we
What the fuck was that?
talked about it on the show that his running back points are fucking broken.
Crazy.
What was I saying? On our league though, if you have an empty slot, I think your whole roster is locked out because Dylan lost a bad game, like a really important game last season because of that because he didn't set his lineup.
So he didn't do that, and then also what he did was he had Christian McCaffrey. And this was right before he went on IR. And he left him in that slot too long. And once the game kicks off, you can't pull it off. You just lose because you don't have those points.
He had him in IR when he came off IR. So he had an illegitimate roster.
It was an IR thing. That's right. And to your point, Ray, like before we finish out here, to give some numbers on the crazy-ass season, the Washington Commanders or the football team or the Redskins, whatever the fuck you want to call them, best week 3. Worst week, 32nd. How do you have that diverse of an outcome, man?
So wide. So you would never use them.
No.
You'd be an idiot to put them in.
No.
Even against Jacksonville, which is who I always love to play defenses against, I would still not start Washington.
Kansas City Chiefs, number 6. Worst one, 28. It's another. We talked about it as tight ends last weekend. There's 2 positions in a row where. Honestly, the best advice is good fucking luck, man. I wish you luck.
Scoring is weird. If you can find out a way to make it work really well, let me know. Start fucking spamming that shit on forums because I would love to have a better.
Put it in Discord. Put it on our little comment section on whatever you're watching this on. Like, hey, this is the settings we've used and it's fixed this issue because it's unless we talked about editing like special teams because you know how they're both part, right? Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing that we, kind of really didn't mention because everybody kind of has the same rules. But if you have a solution for the special teams and defense to not be scored so harshly, even if they do like a great shutout or multiple turnovers, if they gave up 400 yards, it was a dog shit weekend.
Yeah, 2 points to that defense.
Yeah. So if you guys figure it out, let us know. Yeah. You guys have anything else for us?
That's it for me.
That's it? Mm-hmm. All right, folks. Well, trying to do our best with the tough positions 2 weeks in a row. Hopefully we'll have a little more better advice next week. Just check in. We'll see what we got going on. But that's it, folks. I hope you guys enjoy. Have a good one.